Hey guys, it's Suds, and today I'm going to be talking about the NBA Power Rankings. We obviously don't know if these teams are solidified yet with Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, and Kyrie looming, but since I've been waiting a couple weeks for this video, I figured I'd just post it and get it over with. I can always change my rankings later, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong about any of these teams that you're more high on, or if you're more low on some of these teams. But I'm going to get right into the video real quick because this is probably going to be a long video. We have a lot to go through, so I'm not going to start with the Bucks because obviously I'm a Bucks fan and I kind of want to save them for one of the last teams just because I'll talk about them forever. Not actually though. I'll go fast. But the Nets, I'm going to put them in the I'm going to put them in the B tier because I think they'll be one of the top seeds. I think they have potential to be a 2 or 3 seed, but with Kevin Durant and Kyrie looming, if they don't come back, they're definitely not even going to be this high, but assuming that both of those guys are there, I think they'll be either an A team or a B team, and there's a lot of teams I want to put in that A tier, so B tier for them. They have a lot of good guys, Seth Curry, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Royce O'Neal. They have a lot of good talent. Oh, obviously Ben Simmons too. I almost forgot he existed for a second. But yeah, they're going to be really good next year, and they're definitely going to be better than this next team, which is the Knicks. And I'm going to put them also in the B tier. They got Jalen Brunson, which is they needed a point guard. They've needed a point guard for a long time, but they added Jalen Brunson. I just don't see them going any higher. Brooklyn has the potential to go higher, but Knicks for me are still the same team than they were last year. I thought they were going to be really good last year after their playoff push the other year, but they were really disappointing last year, and I just don't see them being any better just because of Jalen Brunson. He was amazing in the playoffs last year, but it's Jalen Brunson we're talking about, right? He's not exactly a ceiling raiser. It's not like adding a Kyrie Irving, or it's not like adding a Malcolm Brogdon even. Like Malcolm Brogdon, in my opinion, is better than Jalen Brunson. I know it's kind of a hot take for some people, but just based off size and ability, I think that Malcolm Brogdon is probably the more efficient, better player. But Jalen Brunson definitely has the best upside between those two players. I'm not saying that, but yeah, the Knicks, they still got Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Derrick Rose. A lot of guys that can come in and play and contribute, but they traded away a lot of their depth and they traded away a lot of picks. So I just don't know how good they're going to be next year. I think they should have kept Nerlens Noel at least. They gave up Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel. So I don't know. But Toronto, top team. They're definitely going to be a 5 seed for me, maybe even a 4 seed. They added some young guys in the draft. I think, if I'm thinking correctly, I think they did. But they also have Scotty Barnes. They have that young group of Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, who's not exactly young, Fred VanVleet, who's definitely not young, Gary Trent Jr., who had a big leap last year. Their center is still kind of up for grabs. I think maybe Chris Boucher will slide in there because Pascal played a lot of center last year. I thought that was just kind of weird because he's not exactly a center type to me. He's a great defender, don't get me wrong. He could play center, but I think he's better suited for that power forward position. So definitely a 4 or 5 seed for Toronto in the East. They're going to be a very good team next year. Jazz, I think they'll be in the D tier. And actually, I'm going to remove this tier because I just don't think that an F tier is necessary. D tier is Jazz. They will be a bad team next year. Even with Donovan Mitchell, they won't be a playoff team. They could be in the C tier if Donovan Mitchell spazzes and carries them somehow, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chris Paul did for the Thunder a couple years ago. But even then, the Jazz are way worse than that team ever was. So, yeah, I just don't see them going anywhere, and I don't think Donovan Mitchell's going to be there in the beginning of the season anyways. I just think that the Jazz are going to do that rebuild or a half rebuild type of thing. They don't have enough assets to me to build around Donovan Mitchell. I know they were talking about it, but I just don't see it happening. They just don't have it. They're not going to be a very good team next year. The Rockets are in the similar boat, but I think they'll be a C-tier team because of the talent they have. They have way more talent than Utah, and they just drafted Jabari Smith Jr., who I'm not super high on, but I think he will be a solid guy. He kind of reminds me of a young Jeff Green right now. Um, I don't think I wouldn't have said that in the beginning of the season or like the beginning of the summer league. But once I saw him play in summer league, he has a lot of good tools, but his ceiling is still questionable for me. But they have Jalen. I almost said Jalen Smith. That's definitely not who they have. Jalen Green. They have KPJ. They have Alprin Sengun, who I think is going to take a decent leap this year. They have a lot of guys in that team that are young and talented who could obviously leave in the offseason next year, but we're talking about this year. So I think they're going to be a C-tier team with a potential to go to a B-tier team. I think the Houston Rockets have that type of talent that they could be a fringe playoff team, and it's kind of weird to say that. New Orleans, A-tier. They're going to be great next year. They got Dyson Daniels, who I'm high on. They got Zion Williamson coming back. They have Brandon Ingram, obviously, CJ McCollum. Devontae Graham is okay, but eh. They have a lot of guys on that team is my reasoning here. They have a lot of young guys too, like Herb Jones is going to come back, and he was amazing in the playoffs. I mean, I literally was in awe. Also, Larry Nance is still there, and I really like Larry Nance as well. Their center rotation, I'm guessing Jackson Hayes is going to start. Oh, no, Jonas Valanciunas will. What am I talking about? But still, they're going to be a great team. Probably I want to say a 6 team, a 6 seed for them. I wanted to put them higher, but I just don't see them beating out like teams like Denver, Memphis, Dallas. There's a lot of teams in the West that I just don't know where to place yet. One of those teams being the Lakers. I don't know where to place them in the B tier, the A tier, or the S tier. I think more reasonably they're going to be in the B tier. And I only say that because Anthony Davis has been injured like the last 2 seasons straight. They've had a lot of injuries with LeBron too. I just don't see the age playing well in their favor here. And we don't know if Carmelo Anthony is coming back, who I thought was a pretty solid player for them. They're just very talented in the sense of they obviously have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook, who could still make it work. And if that core comes back to what they used to be in their primes, or at least close to their primes, they will be an S-tier team regardless. But they added Thomas Bryant. They still have THT. They added not Bryn Forbes, my bad. They added Lonnie Walker. I think that they're going to be a B tier team, but like I said, they could go A or S. It really could go any way with them. I'm just basing it off their injury history, and that's why I put them at the B tier. The Chicago Bulls are an A team for me. They're going to be coming back. I think they'll end up around the 4 or 5 seed like they did last year, but they'll be improved in the sense of hopefully they'll have less injuries next year. Alex Caruso will be healthy. Lonzo Ball will be healthy. Patrick Williams will be healthy. They have a lot of guys that were injured last year, and I think that played a part in their downfall at the halfway mark. You know, they had a lot of haters in the first half of the season when they were first seed for majority of it, and I was really impressed with them. But once that halfway mark hit, they really fell apart. They lost their groove, and their offense needs to improve. So I think they will be a playoff team, a top playoff team. But I don't know if they're going to go past the second round next year. I think they'll be an A-tier team regardless, though. Timberwolves, another A-tier team for me. They have a young guy in Anthony Edwards who's going to be coming and playing his ass off. They traded away Jared Vanderbilt. That's right. Jaden McDaniels. They have D'Angelo Russell, Rudy Gobert, Cat. They have a really good starting lineup, in my opinion. Their bench is a little weakened from trading away Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt. They traded a lot of their depth away and a lot of picks away. But I think the trade-off's going to pay off for them, and they're going to be a top seed next year. They'll probably be at the lowest, the 8th seed, at the highest, the 5th seed. I have a lot of faith in the Timberwolves next year, and I think adding Rudy Gobert was huge for them because Cat can't play defense to save his life. So Rudy Gobert will cover that weakness, and Cat can kind of focus more on the offensive end. So great offseason for the Timberwolves. Also, they added Bryn Forbes, and they kept Taurean Prince. I can't think of who else they added. I can't think off the top of my head. Oh, Kyle Anderson too, which was a huge pickup. I like that pickup a lot. Slow-mo. I like him a lot. Trailblazers, I want to put them at the B tier. I might be a little higher than most people are, but adding Jeremy Grant, keeping Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, getting Shadon Sharp, I think they're going to be really solid next year. Josh Hart's still there. They have a lot of solid, deep roster guys, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to get to that ARS tier just because of the sheer talent in the West right now. But I'm really high on the Trailblazers. I think if I wasn't high on them, I'd probably put them more in the C tier. But I think they'll be a fringe playoff team next year, and if not, they'll be in a play-in. So at least there's that. I like the Trailblazers a lot, and that might just because I'm a biased Damian Lillard fan, but I like them a lot next year. Denver, they're tough because I think I'm going to put them in the A tier. And the only reason I put them in the A tier is because I think that they will have trouble with their injuries still. Jamal Murray hasn't played for like 2 years. MPJ was out basically all last year. Who else was injured last year for them? I can't think off the top of my head. I think those might be the two biggest injuries for them. But they added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They brought in some big guys. They're a solid team. I like them a lot, but I just don't know if they're going to be on that S tier. If Jamal Murray and MPJ come back and they're healthy all season, easily an S tier team. They'll be better than the Mavericks, in my opinion, next year if they have all those guys back together. But just assuming that they're not going to be fully healthy, I'm going to put them in that A tier. OKC, same thing with the Rockets. Very young, talented, but young. Not a lot of veterans. I think that they'll be a pretty average team. They could be in that B tier with all these guys, but I just don't see them in the West of all things. I just don't see them getting much further than maybe the 11th or 10th seed. They could make the play-in, but I doubt they get any further than the play-in just because there's way too much talent in the West right now. Chet Holmgren also has to show that he can play in the NBA. He played well in the Summer League, but playing against guys like Giannis and LeBron, guys that have bulk and size, I just don't know if he's going to be that good, Memphis, S tier, the first S tier team. They're going to be great next year. They were great last year. Ja Morant's going to come in, play valuable, MVP level play. They traded away DeAnthony Melton, which I don't know if I hated or liked yet. But they kept Tyus Jones, who's arguably one of the best handling point guards in the league. They have a lot of depth in Brandon Clark. Obviously, Tyus Jones, like I said. They have, what's his name? I can't remember his name. It's going to bother me for the rest of the video. But they have a lot of guys, is my point, and they're going to be a deep team, regardless if they have injuries like last year or they're healthy. So, S-tier team with the potential to be even SS+. I don't know. I'm joking. They're going to be a top team, probably a 2 seed next year. I don't see them being a 1 seed. I think the Clippers will be the 1 seed, which I'm going to use them next, even though they're not in the order. And they're going to be the next S-tier team. The Clippers are deep. The deepest team in the league, in my opinion. It all is based off of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who I think are both going to be healthy by the time the season starts, or at least close to it. And regardless if they're not, they're still going to be a playoff team either in the A tier or the S tier. So I cannot see them being a play-in team next year. They're going to be amazing next year. They got Norman Powell, Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum's back. They have a ton of talent, and I'm really excited to watch them. Also, John Wall joining. Dude, that team is going to be disgusting. I can't wait to watch the Clippers next year. And just as a basketball fan, I'm obviously a diehard Bucks fan, but the Clippers excite me the most out of any team on this list. Dallas is an A tier. I wanted to put them on the S tier, but the Suns and the Warriors are still on the board, and the S tier is 1 to 3 seed. So I have to pick between these two which one's going to be in the top 3. I think that Dallas has a potential to be an S tier team. They're going to be a 1 to 3 seed possibly, but they added Christian Wood. They added some other guys. They added some draft guys like Jaden Hardy. I like that, but I just don't see that they improved enough for me to be like, oh yeah, they're there. Because they also lost Jalen Brunson. And I think if they brought back Jalen Brunson, they would be an S tier team for me. But losing Jalen Brunson was a pretty big blow for them. I'm not high on Jalen Brunson, but I respect his talent and his drive. I think he's really solid. And last year in the playoffs, he was one of their best players. If it wasn't for Luka Doncic, they would be way lower on this list, obviously. But Luka Doncic will be carrying them next year, like Nikola Jokic did for Denver. Spurs, D. They're not going anywhere. They got no talent in the sense of older guys. Like, they don't have a Kevin Durant or even a DeMar DeRozan. They don't have anybody like that can bring them to the playoffs. They trade away DeJounte Murray. They're not going anywhere. They're going to stay right where they are at in that D tier. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year, but they're going to be developing that talent. They're rebuilding. So it's fine for them not to be a good team next year. The Suns, A tier. Yeah. I think that locker room issues could play a part in this because DeAndre Ayton came back, obviously, but everybody knows that they kind of have that issue in the locker room with him. I don't know if that's actually true or not, seeming that they brought him back, but I think that the Warriors will be better than the Suns next year just because of the pure confidence they're going to have next year. It obviously all depends on injuries like it does every year, but the Suns will be a close third right behind the Golden State Warriors. And I may as just put the Golden State Warriors there right now. But yeah, the Suns are going to be up there. They're going to be a great team next year. They're going to be another playoff contending team next year. I thought they were really bad last year when they got wiped out by Dallas, but I don't think that's going to happen again. Golden State is next, obviously. They're that last 3 seed for me. They're there. I just don't see them being any lower than a 3 seed right now. That when I watched them in the playoffs, I saw the sheer confidence they had in themselves. Draymond talks about how he lost his confidence, and we saw that. But Steph Curry and Klay Thompson just revived him during that playoff series, and I think that they're at an all-time high right now in confidence. They have young guys, and Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, and James Wiseman, who are all going to play good next year. And they also brought back some guys and brought in some guys. So I really like the Dante DiVincenzo bringing in Dante DiVincenzo. He's really going to be solid for them. I wish the Bucks would have brought him back for that price, but it's all right. They can have him. He's going to fit their system amazing. So, yeah, the Golden State Warriors, champions, they're going to be coming back strong next year. Detroit, surprisingly, I'm going to put them in the B tier. I think Detroit's going to be a good team next year. They could be an 8th seed. They could be a play-in team. It's either one of those two. They brought in a lot of guys that I think are going to be very good in the league in the draft, like Jalen Duran. I like that a lot. I like the Jaden Ivey signing. He's going to be really good. Cade Cunningham still, Sadiq Bey. They kept Isaiah Stewart. They also got Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks, who are both good rotational players. They're going to be really good next year, and I'm actually really excited to watch them because obviously of their talent, but as well as their jersey choice. They went with those nice teal jerseys, and I like that. So they're going to be fun to watch next year. One of those fun teams that you didn't expect to be fun just because they're Detroit, but I like Detroit a lot this year. Sacramento, this one's tough because I want to put them in that B tier, and I think I will. I think because most of the teams are in the East now, they're going to be in that B tier. They're going to be oh my, jeez, that scared me, man. They're going to be in that B tier. Obviously, they got in Keegan Murray. They brought in, who else did they bring in that I'm forgetting? I think they brought in some guys that I'm really blanking on right now, but they're going to be really good next year. They still have Davion Mitchell. They still have De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray. They're going to be really good next year, in my opinion, but they won't be a playoff contender. They're just going to be a play-in or playoff spot holder. So I don't see them getting past anybody in the A tier, but time will tell. We'll have to see how they play next year. The Cavaliers, they are in the A tier. I think that the Cavs are going to be a fringe S tier team next year. They're going to surprise a lot of people. They did last year, but now that they're healthy And they brought back Ricky Rubio, who I loved seeing coming back to the Cavaliers because he played amazing for them last year before he got injured. They still have Evan Mobley. They have Darius Garland. They have Isaac Okoro. They have a lot of good guys on their team, man. I'm really excited for the Cleveland Cavaliers as well. Hopefully they have good jerseys so I feel a little bit better about watching them, but we'll have to see. Their jerseys last year were kind of mid. But, yeah, they're going to be really good next year. And like I said, they could be an S-tier team. I could see them knocking out either the Philadelphia 76ers or Atlanta Hawks in the S-tier. And I'm not going to put the 76ers there right now, but I'm still debating if I should put them there or not. Boston Celtics, S-tier, easily. They're going to be right back where they were last time. They're going to be probably above the Bucks next year. And I'm saying that as a Bucks fan. They're so deep and so talented. Malcolm Brogdon adding and basically gave up nothing but Aaron Nesmith. Like, oh my. They're going to be so good next year. They're going to be a 60-win team for me next year. And I think they might be the best team in the league next year just because of how good they are. Yeah, their team's going to be ridiculous. I'm really excited to watch the Boston Celtics, even though they knocked us out last year, and I hate the Boston Celtics with a burning passion. For the sake of basketball, I'm really excited for them. I was going to do the Bucks, but I'm going to save them. 76ers, A tier. I know I said I was going to put them in the S tier, but I think Atlanta will be above them. And James Harden taking that pay cut, if you want to call it that. I mean, he's still making $30 million. He's not taking that big of a pay cut, but him and Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey is going to be a very deadly core. But this is all depending on injuries once again. James Harden had injuries last year. Joel Embiid had injuries last year and probably still does have injuries because I think he had problems with his hand or his knee or something. I can't remember. But yeah, and then they brought in DeAnthony Melton, who I really liked for them. They brought in some solid guys in free agency, but I can't put them in that S tier, not knowing what they're going to be next year. I just don't know. The Bucks, I'm putting them in the S tier. If they stay healthy, meaning Chris Middleton and Giannis and Drew, they're going to be potentially better than the Boston Celtics, but I still think the Boston Celtics will be better. The Bucks brought in Joe Ingles. They brought back Serge Ibaka. They brought back Javon Carter. They brought in Marjon Beauchamp, who I have the jersey hanging up right beside me. I love the core that the Bucks just brought around Giannis. I think Joe Ingles is going to be huge for us in the second half of the season. I know he tore his ACL and he's old, but man, that dude can play. So, yeah, they're going to be really good next year. I'm really excited to watch the Bucks, especially in their new black jerseys with the antlers on the side. Those things are hard, so I'm excited. Charlotte, B tier. Actually, C tier. I'm not going to actually... No. I'm going to put them in the B tier. I won't disrespect. Actually, though... No, I'm going to disrespect because LaMelo Ball's going to make that leap next year still. But Miles Bridges is gone, to my expectation. I don't think they're going to bring him back, and I don't think he'll be in the NBA next year. Montrezl Harrell, well, I don't know if he's going to come back because of his drug problems. The Charlotte Hornets probably had one of the toughest off seasons and worst off seasons because of how their players acted in the off season. It's not even their fault. They would have brought both those guys back if they didn't ruin their lives with their problems. So, yeah, I think Charlotte's going to be a C-tier team. They're going to be probably not even in the playoffs, maybe a play-in team at the most. Just don't see them getting that far. Washington, I'll put Washington in the B tier because I think they'll be better than the Hornets, which is kind of weird to say. But I think that adding some of the guys that they added this year, I like the bringing of Monte Morris. I like the addition of Will Barton. They brought back Bradley Beal. Who else did they bring in? Kristaps Porzingis last year. They're going to be solid. They're not going to be a playoff team, but they'll be a play-in team. Atlanta's my third S-tier team, as you can tell, probably from the rankings right now. I'm high on Atlanta, but Miami could easily take that spot. But Atlanta, adding DeJounte Murray, I think that's the last piece they needed. They have a really good starting lineup now with DeJounte Murray, Trae Young. They got John Collins. I don't know, Clint Capella. could be there next year, or it could be Oneka Okongwu. I almost said that wrong. And then DeAndre Hunter, obviously. They're going to be a really good team next year. I'm really excited to watch the Hawks as well. Probably the top 3 teams I'm going to be watching next year are the Clippers, the Bucks, and the Hawks. Like, those 3 teams are really exciting for me. But there's a lot of other teams on this list that I'm really excited for. But yeah, the Atlanta Hawks are going to be top 3 seed next year. Mark my words. They're going to be a top 3 seed. Magic, D tier. They're going to be average. They're not going to be great. They're not going to be bad. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league, but they're not bad. It's just the sense that there's so much more talent in every other team that they're not going to be at that playoff level or even the play-in level. I just don't see them getting that far. They're kind of like the OKC Thunder to me, but I just don't see them being better than either the Rockets or OKC Thunder. The Pacers, another D-tier team. They could, honestly though, they could probably be a C-tier team. I think they'll be a C-tier team. Now that I'm looking at it, they will. And then Miami, obviously, be a A-tier team. But let me talk more about the Pacers. Miles Turner, I could see him getting traded. Buddy Hield, probably get traded. Tyrese Halliburton is going to be great next year. Jalen Smith is going to be great next year. Who else did they get? Aaron Nesmith could take a jump next year. I actually really like his game. I just don't think he had much time for the playoff or for the Boston Celtics because of the sheer depth they have. But yeah, I think that the Pacers could be a team that could even get in the play-in tournament, like beat the Wizards in the playoff tournament. But Miami, I was going to put them in the S tier, but they didn't really get better this year. They kind of stayed the same, and they lost PJ Tucker, who I think was part of the reason they even got that far in the playoffs in the first place. I'm a huge believer in PJ Tucker and his leadership. Like I said, him and Patrick Beverley are top guys for me. I just like their leadership a lot, and I don't think either Timberwolves or Miami would have gotten as far without them. But yeah, Miami's going to be, they're going to be like a 6th, 7th seed. I don't think they're going to be a top seed, like top 5. I just don't see it. There's a lot of talent in the East, just like there is in the West, and they didn't get better. They didn't improve. So unless they trade for Kevin Durant or something, and they'd have to give up 1,000 assets just for Kevin Durant. I just don't see them getting any better. So that's my video. Let me know if you agree with this tier list. I think I did order it right. I think I did. Let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Yeah, so that is right. Okay, so that is my list. I just wanted to make sure before I said that was my list that I got everything right. I think that those are top guys. Top S and A are going to be the top playoff teams, and B through D are going to be average to teams. They're going to be okay. But let me know if you agree with these. Let me know if I got any wrong that you would have put higher. I know the Lakers probably would be higher for some people. I know probably Toronto and New Orleans could be higher for some people, as well as Miami and Philadelphia. Even the Suns and Dallas Mavericks. I think there's a lot of teams in the A tier that could have been fringe S tier teams. It's just very hard to put certain guys places, you know. There's a lot to unpack for this season. So if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. I'll be back with more videos either this week or next week. I hope you enjoyed, and have a great day.